Mr. Robert? Yeah, that's me. Sign here, please. Good luck. Hello?
Robert, fix it. Do you know who this is?
YouTube?
We've been watching you. We need your help. You must review the GPUs before they come.
But I don't do that anymore.
They're already here.
Who?
They're called the haters. Activate the program now. I'm counting on you.
He's over there.
Oh shit. Alright, we're back with another GPU comparison video. Not the ones that are in the every GPU in Fortnite series. That's a different subject altogether. But this is the what would be the mid-tier, supposedly mid-tier cards. So this is just a quick video. I just wanted to show something because I can't review every card in the world. This is mid-tier. This video was actually supposed to be about this card. This is a GTX 960 2GB, but I can't make a video about every card. As I said, it's just going to be too much. So I'm only showing you this just to show you the design of it. So this is a very low-end card, 960. And then there's 970, 980, 980 Ti. So as someone who specifically focuses on the GTX 1060, I appreciate this card because it fills a little gap whenever this came out, I guess. It was supposed to be the $200 price range low-end card, but most people bought the 970, 980, and not too many people bought this card. But if you look at this card, I mean, look at the heatsink, the twin fan, the length. So if you look at it closely, it's basically a 970, 980 card with just a lower chip in it. And this is where I normally steal the heatsinks from, is these cards. So it doesn't do too well, but there will be a 900 series comparison later. I just wanted to show you that because there will be no video about this card specifically as planned. Now let's talk about the mid-tier. What do you call it? The mid-tier? Also, this table has a lot of scratches, so what can you do? So mid-tier to me was the GTX 1060, which is where I was born and raised, and then the equivalent would be the RX570, RX580, and we made a lot of videos about those going head to head. And we can't make those videos anymore because I've done several of them and everybody else has done more than several of them. So there's just too many RX 580 versus RX 580 versus 1060 videos. So if I've made 4 of them, then that means that's too much. But I'm just looking at the design here. So this is actually an RX 570. And just look at the beef on this. I mean, it's heavy. I don't like AMD cards, but I like this. It's just so, the squareness of it, the heat, look at the heat sink, cooling. I mean, it's a 570. It doesn't need all this. But once again, it's a 580 design with a 570 chip. Because I have had a 570, the regular one, and it just has these little cheap fans and a little tiny heatsink. So as much as I don't like AMD graphics cards, if I had to live by one, I would definitely go with the Sapphire. It's just so, look at this. It's so heavy, just like a tank. There's 4 heat pipes. I love this card. I don't know, I have a crush on it. So that's, oh, it's so heavy. So then there's that, and then this is a 580 XFX. See, look. Just look at the difference. Oh, these are basically the same cards, right? This is a 570, and this is a 580. The fan, like, just feels cheap. Once again, I like this card. Okay, let me stop crushing on that card. So 580 here, it's kind of, you know, it's 4 heat pipes, same thing. I don't like the shroud. Kind of looks like a big stop sign. I have a personal problem with XFX cards, but the reason why I have 3 of them now is because they're so cheap. This, I mean, it's okay. And then we have the 590 here, which is the same thing, but look at the heatsink on that bad boy. Even though the top's still cheap, but look at this thing's thick. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the XFX. I think it's this little weird thing that I don't like. I mean, I guess it's there so you won't like touch the heatsink, but otherwise I don't see the effectiveness of this. This has a lot of things going on here. Anyway, this one, the 590 is pretty fast. It has 8 gigs. It beats the 1060. And at the time when I was doing these benchmarks, this was probably the fastest card that I had. And then I went to 980 Ti, which beat all of these. But the problem with the 980 Ti is the power draw. And so I no longer can include 980 Ti's in my comparisons because it's kind of sad for me because I love the 980 Ti and that was my personal GPU for a while. It's just, you know, you have a card that pulls 260 watts. It's just, there's no reason for it. I love it. It's cheap. I mean, you can probably still get one for 50-60 bucks and they're really fast, but if you're pulling 280 watts from your GPU and you saved maybe $20 on the GPU, unless your electricity is free, you're gonna lose that $20 in power cost. So it's too bad. It's just, it runs hot. It pulls. Actually, I think I hit 290 once on overclocking. So let's get to my current baby. So this this. I've shown this in another video. This says 980 Ti, but this is actually a GTX 1070 Founders Edition. You know, the one that had the blowers fan like this. And I like this card because it beat all of those other cards that I just showed you by a wide margin. And so I was completely happy with this. I thought, this is it. This is the card that I want to get married with, have 4 children, and retire. But there's a problem here. This card is $70, and I don't have, I might link it below, but there was a video I made that said, what is the best GPU under $100 used? And at the time that I posted that video, it was the 980 Ti because it was technically the fastest card you could buy under $100. And then if you were to ask me today, what's the fastest GPU you get for under $100, it would be this, a 1070. But where would you find a 1070? I mean, it's kind of hard to find one. And so that brings me to the subject of this comparison. I think you already knew the answer to this question. This is the card that is in every video budget gaming PC on YouTube for probably the last 6 months. And I knew that. I had a 1650, it was awesome, but the 1650 was kind of like a watered down card. And at the time, I said, because at that point I hadn't had a 980 Ti yet. So at the time I was, you know, Team 1060. I said, well, man, if I could get I had the 1650, it was awesome because it didn't draw that much power. It was 110 watts total. And then I found out that the 1660 had all the cores that the 1650 was missing. And I did buy one, but I sold it a few days later, so I didn't really get to try it that much. I actually didn't know there was a 1660 Super or Ti. And so I've always been looking for them, but the problem is they're so expensive. These go or they were $200. All the 1660s I've seen were been about $100 now. And we're trying to be under $100. And I don't want a 1650 because I already had one, and that was like driving a car with 3 wheels. It was, you know, okay, but not good enough. So anyway, so I got the 1660 Super for $70, which is well outside of my price range because all of the cards that I showed you were $50. With the exception of the 1070, I did pay $70 in total for this. I bought the card for $50, which had a water cooler, which I sold. And then I bought a 980 Ti, a bad one, to put the heat sinks on it for $20. So in my mind, it was actually $70. But anyway, so that's the 1070 is $70, and the 1660 Super is also $70. And I was talking with some friends on a live stream, And they said, you know, it would be really interesting if you could race the 1070 against the 1660 Super because they're so close in specs and performance. The 1070 has 8 gigs, this one has 6. The Super designation is a 1660, but it has DDR6 instead of DDR5X or whatever the regular one has. So the one that I had before was just a regular 1660, and it was pretty fast. And you know, of course, it killed the 1060, and I didn't have a 1080 Ti or the 980 Ti yet. But anyway, so let's take a look at it. So this is the gigabyte weird version. It's kind of puny. And it has these fans that spin in different directions, which is, I mean, it feels cheap, honestly. And then if you look on the box, it says, look, the air goes up in different directions, right? But look at the heatsink. The cooling is sideways here. The air goes like this for the heatsink. And there's one heat pipe. So, I mean it... Okay, so when I took this out of the box, I felt like I bought a GTX 1030 or one of those cheap cards, because it feels like, I mean, really? Look at, there's one heat pipe here. One. Compared to this. Compared to that. So are you telling me that this little card is faster than this? Well, unfortunately, due to who knows what, it is faster. So I was going to do a drag race between the two cards, but the thing is that the performance of this card, so let's put them side by side. So just quickly, I don't want to take up too much time. So Furmark benchmark 1080p, this was 6,000 out of the box. That's 1660 Super, 6 GB. This is like 47. And you can overclock it all day. Maybe it's 52. Okay, so that's just, I mean, there's not even a point to make a video about this. I mean, the performance is so crazy. Now, the 1070 is essentially the same kind of card, just older. So this is 6,000. This is 6,000. I overclocked this a little bit and I got 65. This one gets 67. So it overclocked, I mean. So, but the thing is that the difference is so slight. So slight. Now, just from a beefy perspective, I would rather have this card. But it's huge. But if you were upgrading a small PC, an office PC, you would want this because it's a 120 watt draw. So what that means is you don't need an upgraded power supply. You get 75 from here, and then you get up to 75 from here. So you don't, I mean, normally, don't burn your house down, but potentially you could do SATA here, SATA adapter here, and then here. So you don't have to upgrade the power supply, and you're getting 6,000 Furmark here, and then 65 with an overclock. This, so that's 120. This is a 150 draw, so you can't do, I think you can't do SATA adapters unless you have there's one where you get 2 SATAs and you do, I think I've seen it. You get 2 SATAs into one 8-pin. But then again, look at the space. I mean, if you have a Dell Optiplex, it's not going to fit. So it's just, it's so negligible. I still like this one. I did run a benchmark on this for an hour. I really hate this seat. This heatsink is just, I mean, it looks like a 5-year-old made this heatsink. So what I really want to do is put this cooling solution on here and then overclock it to the max. The problem is, I mean, that would be fun, but the problem is this card is so popular, and I have the box for it, that I guarantee you if I post this for $100, it's going to sell immediately because they're so hard to find. So, I mean, I would love to see how far I can go, but I think it's in my best interest to just let somebody else have it. But yeah, I mean, I put the overclock settings from this on here and they just handle it, no problem. The only thing is, after an hour of running the benchmark, the card was so hot. Not the GPU temperature. GPU temperature was fine, it was 70 something. But I turned off the computer and I grabbed the card and I was like, this, it was so, the whole card was hot. Not this part, but like the card. It was like a toaster. And this is plastic, it's fake. So for most of the world, this is the best thing you can get, a 1660, 1660 Super, 1660 Ti, which you're probably not going to find anywhere. Any kind of 1660. You've seen people post about it in numerous videos. This, as of the end of 2024, is the best value card under $100 that you can buy all day long. So there's no need to do a head-to-head. It wins. But I'm going to keep this bad boy. We'll see you next time.